Hello again. Like Groundhog Day, huh? He was sitting there like 2 hours ago. Hello, everybody. I was just stopping for a moment to think about what I wanted to say. Um, when I do two services, it's not in my nature to give the same talk because it's boring to me. So I had to think of what else I might say. And what came to my mind for this was like when the Dalai Lama is asked, "What's your religion?" He almost never responds Buddhism. He responds kindness. And that to me is pretty profound and makes me much more comfortable than somebody responding, "My religion is Buddhism or Christianity or anything," because saying you belong to a group doesn't necessarily mean much. And so the Dalai Lama says, "My religion is kindness." I remember when I saw the Dalai Lama speak at Stanford one time, it was pretty entertaining because the dean of Stanford's religious life was there, and they did this long introduction of him, and he had a great past. And then the Dalai Lama, wanted to be introduced as a monk. And here's a guy who had won the Nobel Prize and had written the major, one of the many major books. But he wanted to be known as a monk. And one time I came very close to meeting the Dalai Lama. It was going to be at a small dinner party before one of his Stanford talks. And he was flying from India to the United States. And I found out that when he got to the United States, whatever reason, he was too tired, so he didn't make that talk. But one of the reasons I also found out was at that time he may have been in his early 70s, maybe mid 70s, and he had just flown coach from India. Because in his mind, I'm no more special than anybody else in my troop, so why would I fly first class and them fly coach? So I was, I think about this, like, what does it mean, like, when somebody says, "What's your religion?" And what I decided to do for this sermon was read a story that I think encapsulates one, if somebody would ask and respond, "My religion is kindness," but what that might mean. So this is a true story. It's written by the first American Aikido master in the United States. And he trained in Tokyo under the founder of Aikido, which is a martial art. And then he came to the United States and started the Aikido study here. So I'm reading his words. "The train clanked and rattled through the suburbs of Tokyo on a drowsy spring afternoon. Our car was comparatively empty, a few housewives with their kids in tow, some old folks going shopping. I gazed absently at the drab houses and dusty hedgerows. At one station, the doors opened, and suddenly the afternoon quiet was shattered by a man bellowing violent, incomprehensible curses. The man staggered into our car. He wore laborer's clothing and he was big, drunk, and dirty. Screaming, he swung at a woman holding a baby. The blow sent her spinning into the laps of an elderly couple. It was a miracle that they were unharmed. Terrified, the people jumped up and scrambled towards the other end of the car. The laborer aimed a kick at the retreating back of the old woman, but missed as she scuttled to safety. This so enraged the drunk that he grabbed the metal pole in the center of the car and tried to wrench it out of its stanchion. I could see that one of his hands was cut and bleeding. The train lurched ahead, the passengers frozen with fear, and I stood up. I was young then, some 20 years ago, and in pretty good shape. I'd been putting in a solid 8 hours of Aikido training nearly every day for the past 3 years. I liked to throw and grapple. I thought I was tough. Trouble was, my martial arts skill was untested in actual combat. As students of Aikido, we were not allowed to fight. Aikido, my teacher said over and over and over, is the art of reconciliation. Whoever has the mind to fight has broken his connection with the universe. If you try to dominate people and you are already defeated, we study how to resolve conflict, not how to start it. I listened to his words. I tried hard. I even went so far as to cross the street to avoid the chimpira, the pinball punks who lounged around the train stations. My forbearance exalted me. I felt tough and holy. In my heart, however, I wanted an absolutely legitimate opportunity where I might save the innocent by destroying the guilty. This is it, I said to myself, getting to my feet. People are in danger. And if I don't do something fast, somebody will get hurt. Seeing me stand up, the drunk recognized the chance to focus his rage. Aha, he roared, a foreigner. You need a lesson in Japanese manners. I held on lightly to the commuter strap overhead and gave him a slow look of disgust and dismissal. I planned to take this turkey apart, but he had to make the first move. I wanted him mad, so I pursed my lips and blew him an insolent kiss. All right, he hollered, you're gonna get a lesson. He gathered himself for a run at me. A split second before he could move, somebody shouted, hey! It was ear-splitting. I remember the strangely joyous, lilting quality of it, as though you and a friend had been searching diligently for something, and he suddenly stumbled upon it. Hey! I wheeled to my left. The drunk spun to his right. We both stared down at a little old Japanese man. He was well into his 70s, this tiny gentleman, sitting there immaculate in his kimono. He took no notice of me, but beamed delightedly at the laborer, as though he had a most important, most welcome secret to share. Come here, the old man said, in an easy vernacular, beckoning to the drunk. Come here, talk with me. He waved his hand lightly. The big man followed as if on a string. He planted his feet belligerently in front of the old gentleman and roared above the clacking wheels. Why the hell should I talk to you? The drunk now had his back to me. If he moved his elbow as much as a millimeter, I'd drop him in his socks. The old man continued to beam at the laborer. What you been drinking? He asked, his eyes sparkling with interest. I've been drinking sake, the laborer bellowed back, and it's none of your damn business. Flecks of spittle spattered the old man. That's wonderful, the old man said. Absolutely wonderful. You see, I love sake. Every night, me and the wife, she's 76, we warm up a little bottle of sake and take it out into the garden, and we sit on an old wooden bench. We watch the sun go down, and we look to see how our persimmon tree is doing. My great-grandfather planted a tree, and we worry every year about whether it will recover from the ice storms that we have each winter. Our tree has done so much better than I expected, especially when you consider the poor quality of the soil. It is gratifying to watch when we take our sake and go out to enjoy the evening, even when it rains. He looked up at the laborer, eyes sparkling. As he struggled to follow the old man's conversation, the drunk's face began to soften. His fist slowly unclenched. Yeah, he said, I love persimmons too. His voice trailed off. Yes, said the old man, smiling, and I'm sure you have a wonderful wife. No, replied the laborer. My wife died. Very gently, swaying with the motion of the train, the big man began to cry. I don't got no wife. I don't got no home. I don't got no job. I'm so ashamed of myself. Tears rolled down his cheeks. A spasm of despair rippled throughout his body. Now it was my turn. Standing there in well-scrubbed youthful innocence, my make this world safe for democracy righteousness, I suddenly felt dirtier than the drunk. The train arrived at my stop. As the doors opened, I heard the old man cluck sympathetically. My, he said, that is a difficult predicament indeed. Sit down, please, and tell me all about it. I turned my head for one last look. The laborer was sprawled on the seat, his head in the old man's lap. The old man was softly stroking the filthy matted hair. As the train pulled away, I sat down on a bench. What I had wanted to do with muscle had been accomplished with kind words. I had just seen Aikido tried in combat, and the essence of it was love. I would have to practice the art with an entirely different spirit. It would be a long time before I would ever again speak about the resolution of conflict. Besides that being a true story, I heard that story first maybe 30 years ago. The spiritual teacher Ram Dass used that story as one of his teachings on conflict resolution. What's so powerful about that story is when the Dalai Lama says, my religion is kindness, what he means is that's his intention for his behavior. My religion, my practice, my transformation, my goal, whatever it is, my religion is kindness. That means that's what I want to be. That's how I want to aim myself. That's what our religion is. It's who we want to become. My religion is kindness. You have to want something. You have to practice towards it. You have to aim towards it. That becomes your religion, to do, to practice, to be. His Aikido practice, the young man's, was not in alignment with the ethos of the practice because he wanted to dominate people. He was practicing for that goal. So while he was doing the external forms of Aikido, he was not doing the internal forms of Aikido. The little old Japanese man was already a master of the inner form of Aikido. He didn't want to hurt anybody. He didn't want to show anybody how tough he was. He didn't need to dominate. He just wanted to help. Just wanted to solve the problem. He just wanted to reduce the suffering of the person he saw in front of him. His religion was kindness. The Aikido guy's religion was power. It's not easy when we recognize the falseness of our own religious views. And that's what life does to us. It tests us. It shows us who we are. It gives us situations where we're challenged. It gives us lots of opportunities to practice what our religion is. Gives us chances all over the place. What's our religion? And it's not as if we fail or succeed. It's one, what do we see about ourselves? Two, are we in alignment with what we see? Is this how I want to be? Three, if we're in alignment, great. Four, if we're not in alignment, do we change? The other thing is when you see how you respond to conflict, you learn a lot about what your religion is. That's how you learn. What do I really believe in? What's my basic orientation to other human beings? What's my orientation to life? And so these are our teaching moments. Each of us has many teaching stories like this. What did we do? How did we respond? And even more importantly, what did we learn? What did we learn? There's a well-known book on people who have had near-death experiences. And, those are when there is very decreased brain function, either before death or in other dire situations. Many people report some spiritual experience where, they have a white light or family members come or they see Jesus. I've spoken to a couple of people who have had near-death experiences, and they're remarkable and compelling, and they're much more common than you might think. There was a cardiologist in Europe who interviewed every single person who recovered from a cardiac arrest over a period of years in his practice, and found that about 1 in 5 had some kind of near-death experience. But the one that, the stuff about that was most interesting to me was throughout these, and this has been around for 40 years in the discussion of near-death or out-of-body experiences, is that many people experience what would be called a life review, where there's some wise being or a being of light, Jesus for people who believe in Jesus, and the being helps us look back over our life and see what we're proud of and see what we're not so proud of. And what always comes out when these stories are told is that this being of light is only interested in two things. And it's very interesting because the person having the experience will go, oh, hey, that's where they honored me with the Man of the Week award. And the being of light is like, and oh, there's when I bought my first house. And the being of light can't barely stay awake. But the being of light will show the person, look at that moment where you stopped and you gave somebody a quarter. Notice that, you were kind. Or there's a moment where you didn't stop and help somebody. Please pay attention. And then the person will watch all their accomplishments go by, and the spiritual being is like, I don't care. But what the thinking is that there's like they basically, this life review is a 2-question final exam. Did you love and did you learn? And everything else is trivial. And I believe that people like the Dalai Lama or, Martin Luther King or Mahatma Gandhi, they recognize this while they're here. That's their gift. Be kind. Work on the parts of yourself that are not kind. Compromise, apologize, start over. All the things that are kindness. With a ruptured relationship, work to repair it. None of us is perfect. When we're so far from perfect, but we can stay in there. But that comment by the Dalai Lama, my religion is kindness, is profound. Mahatma Gandhi, when he was killed, he was shot very close range. As he's falling, he's doing this to the person who shot him. He's praying for him. As he's dying, he is praying. He's actually saying Ram, the Hindu name for God. That's what he's saying. He's going like this towards the person who killed him. Ram, 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 Ram. Jesus, Jesus, whatever, it doesn't matter. Because his religion was kindness. No, hopefully none of us will be tested like that. But when you ask yourself what your religion is, it's really important to ask yourself what that means to me and how it influences my behavior and how it guides me to my better self. That's why we do this. And the beauty of this story, besides just that it's a great story, is the young Aikido guy recognized the teaching there. It's not like, he didn't beat himself up forever for, wanting to hurt the guy. He recognized the teaching. He had the humility to recognize, oh, there's a master. Let me follow him. Oh, this is reminding me of what my teacher has been telling me all along. He took the program. And it was at that moment that he understood what being an Aikido student was. It's when he was in alignment with that degree of nonviolence and reconciliation and kindness. And I believe, and this is where I'll stop, I believe that like all the religions of this world, all the wisdom traditions, all the spiritual calls, they all end up in that same place. To be kind, to practice reconciliation, to try to learn from our mistakes, and to look for models to emulate of people who are a little further along on the road. That's our, I don't know what, that's the universal calling that we all have, and that brings us to church and prayer and stuff like that. But my deepest belief is to inspire our behavior, to inspire our actions. Anyway, I thank you as always for inviting me into your church. It's pretty amazing. I realize I've been doing this now for 17 years coming here, which is remarkable. So thank you again.